Welcome back. Well, you'd have seen the confirmation. Eskom now implementing stage 6 load shedding in just 46 minutes from now. Under Durator, the CEO, the Eskom top management saying that part of this is the unlawful industrial action by workers at certain plants. They're not being represented by unions. At the same time, of course, it's not just today's problems that have got us here. There's very little generating capacity in the national grid. And sometimes it seems that all we're doing is arguing about what kind of power we should be using. Lungile Mashele is an energy economist. She joins us now. Lungile, good afternoon to you. There's a lot that's gone wrong here. We've had stage 6 load shedding just once before, I think. It seems a huge amount has gone wrong over perhaps the last 20 years to get us to this point.
Absolutely. I mean, our problems stem all the way back from 1997 when decisions were not made that should have been made. And we find ourselves here in 2022 with stage 6 load shedding. And it's not the first time, yes. However, it does seem that going forward, this might be a frequent feature of what happens with our electricity system. And it's rather unfortunate, especially it finds us on the brink of a recession, I would say. You've got petrol price increases. In the next week, you've got rates, electricity increases for municipalities, food prices at an all-time high, and Eskom has not played ball. Our industry is basically on its knees, from your SMEs to your larger industries, larger companies. Nobody is at ease. This is actually our winter of discontent, ultimately.
In the short-term reason, according to Eskom at least, is this unlawful strike action. And I realize we're talking about massive installations, massive electricity power plants. They're using coal in the main. They've got a lot of moving parts. It's a conjunction of water, heat and electricity. Is it possible to know how big the industrial action is as a factor, or is it actually impossible to assess?
From what we understand, the industrial action only really contributes to about 2,000 megawatts really being off. And this is largely because of a problem accessing site, and that a large part of Eskom's operations are still very, very manual. Therefore, they rely that physical presence of people being there. Now, these are people who are unable to come to site because they've been threatened. These are people who are possibly even having their cars stoned or they've been threatened via the phone. These are people who are obviously maybe at the gate and are preventing access from other people entering who are trying to assist. We also know that there are contractors who are not able to get onto site also. So they've affected not just the employees, but we also believe that the coal supply chain has had some interruptions as well.
Okay, so now the long-term issues here, which really got us here. I mean, you made the point 2007 decisions need to be made. I don't think anyone then, and I remember when it really started, end of 2007, beginning of 2008, I didn't think in 2022 we would still be here, that in fact the situation seems to be getting worse. This shows you how important policy is. You believe the right policy can get us out of this mess.
Stephen, we have all the right policy, we have all the right tools. It's just basically about implementation at this point, and it has always been about implementation. We had Medupi, Kusile, and Gola. If these were built on time and on budget, we wouldn't be sitting where we're sitting currently. We would have firm capacity. We know that last night we lost about 10 units, some of which were from Medupi, which is a flagship power station that Eskom has. And that's not really where Eskom should be finding itself currently. So there are a lot of things that have gone wrong over time, and of course more recently. And one might even say that Eskom is hamstrung by government itself from being able to do the things that it needs to do to get us out of this mess as well. I'm not quite sure if Eskom enjoys government support or if government is even listening to them at the best of times.
You talk about government. What do you believe government should be doing? And I agree. I mean, if you read between the lines of the various briefings, government remains really silent during these moments. Eskom are the ones who have to take the stress.
Government have been silent. Nothing has been said about various equity injections that they've been asking for. One of the key things obviously have been the decisions by the regulator over the last couple of years to give Eskom more, less than half than what they've asked for in their budget or in their tariff application, which has direct impact on how much they can procure. It has direct impact on the level of maintenance that they can do, as well as the staff that they can get in, and the work that they need to do ultimately. So they've been hamstrung on a number of different spaces. But this is not to absolve Eskom also. There are staff issues, there are leadership challenges, there is a trust deficit at play there also, and it's playing itself out currently where, employees are basically saying, we've got the power and we can bring you to your knees ultimately. So there's a lot going on, and unfortunately, we had to witness, I think today for the first time, the GE of Generation and the COO pleading with their staff and saying, can you please get back to work, do what you need to do, prioritize the country. We're going to stage 6, and it's not fair.
You make the point about NERSA and the tariff. So if we were paying more for electricity, if Eskom were allowed to charge us more, would we be in a better position?
Absolutely. Eskom has always in the past explained that our tariff application has to go to their primary energy costs, such as your diesel as well as your coal, which they need for their own fuel. Obviously, it does go to overheads. It does go to the IPPs, paying the IPPs also, and a number of different things. If you do not give Eskom what they require, obviously they now need to reallocate their budget. And this is why their employee double-digit increases do not really make sense in light of what is happening at the utility. And in having to reprioritize their spend, it means that there's certain things that they cannot do. They'll have to scale back on maintenance. They'll have to scale back on distribution and on transmission spend, on any other new things that they were thinking of actually doing to get us out of this mess.
You've worked in other countries, and in fact in Ghana, I know it was one example where you worked where they had load shedding and they got themselves out of it. What did they do?
So Ghana basically had load shedding, what they call doomsaw, and this was from about 2014 to about 2017. They had rotational outages of about 20 hours a day, if we think our 6 hours is bad. But they deployed immediately gas. They had gas-fired plants that they brought online. They had the power ship that they also deployed, and they looked at various other initiatives also. They also relied on industry taking care of itself, which is what we're seeing in this country also. But the key thing with Ghana is that by 2017, load shedding, or 2018, was a thing of the past ultimately. But now Ghana then faces fresh new challenges. So because they overbuilt, because they were so scared of what was going to happen, they then ended up with a lot of electricity, and of course they then had to pay the capacity charges. So that is another pitfall and another risk that Eskom and the government do need to watch out for. But their electricity challenge is basically over.
They were able to clearly, in different ways, add a lot more generating capacity to their grid very quickly. From what I see, I don't see that happening here. I mean, I understand the renewable lobby, and I've got to tell you, Lungi, my heart is sort of with them, that, they say they can get a solar power plant up and running in two years. I've seen some wind people say they can do it in 18 months. Gas, unless you use a ship, takes a lot longer than that. Nuclear takes a decade. Either way, I just don't see more generating capacity being plugged in. This is the real problem.
That's the ultimate thing, right? So there's no generation capacity that's going to come on in the next 2 years. Even the 100 megawatt embedded generation that the president announced in June, only, I think 2 weeks ago, were certain projects given their allowances. So those projects, even if they're built immediately and everything is in place, only in the next 18 to 24 months. So this problem is still going to be with us. In the interim, the only thing that can really help us is to go flat out reliability maintenance program, where we basically say for the next 4 to 6 months, we need to load shed at stage 2 every single day. But you can't just load shed without a plan, without money, without the right people, without the right procurement. So it's an entire reliability maintenance program that needs to be instituted. And perhaps that will get us to a certain level of energy availability factor that we can live with, that will stave off further load shedding, till such a point where we can get additional generation coming in from the private sector.
At the same time, would we also have to increase power prices? Would Eskom have to be allowed to charge us more?
That's a tricky thing, especially in South Africa, one of the most unequal societies in the world. We're asking people to pay more. And I think one of the key things to illustrate here is that what I pay Eskom, or rather my municipality, is more closer to cost reflectivity than what Eskom gets from my municipality. And I think maybe there's a misunderstanding with many people. I think I pay closer to R1.90 per kilowatt hour because I'm with the municipality, and they take all of that, then they pay, let's say, R1.10 to Eskom. So those are some of the issues that are playing themselves out in courts now, and we will be hearing more of this by Friday, because they've taken up an issue with Eskom, and this is now Salga, that they want their customers to come to them if you're in a municipality. There's a serious tussle for customers and for their revenue ultimately.
Lungile Mashele, it's so intensely complicated. Thank you for the explanation. I really appreciate it. Energy economist, and as you can see on your screen, I'm afraid, stage 6 load shedding from 4 o'clock. Do keep watching us while you can.